Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you are doing well. My apologies for doing this live later. I was actually debating whether or not I should do it, considering how late it has gotten. But it has been a busy day. But I'd like to keep the streak alive and uh, go live and see if there's any burning questions on your mind that I can answer as well. And keep you at ease in case you have any nervousness about the markets. So, looking at the markets today, they've performed quite well. Dow Jones, Nasdaq, S&P, and Russell were all in the positive. And we also got some positive developments with regards to the yield on the 10-year Treasury. Remember, this is basically something that moves opposite to risk assets, or is it's better for risk assets when this goes down. And so the yield on the 10-year Treasury was down 2%. Salam Rashad, nice to see you. Yeah, no cause for alarm. I'm going to talk about the bubble. I wanted to talk about was Palantir stock. So, in case you just wanted to check what bubble I was talking about, that was this is the one. The VIX was down, so the nervousness in the market is down, which is good. And the dollar index is down as well. This is also something that we like to see going down, because that means that in dollar terms, stocks are becoming cheaper for international investors. It also means that foreign income that U.S. companies earn translates into more dollars, which means better earnings and revenue numbers. As it relates to some of the big names here, Tesla was down 4%, Nvidia was up 5%, Bitdeer was down close to 4%, Iris Energy was up close to 4%, Piedmont Lithium was pretty much flat. Other names like Taiwan Semiconductors was up a smidge. Super Microcomputer, something that a stock that was in the hundreds a few months ago and is now all the way down to 30. A lot of people are considering it in terms of a potential candidate for a good rebound, and perhaps it is. That being said, there are some questions about the trustworthiness of management and their reporting, and how much you can trust the numbers that are reported in their financials. So we'll see what happens with regards to their next earnings report. With regards to Bitcoin, Doge, and Solana, they still haven't really recovered from the tariff drop that we experienced on Friday. They had a brutal weekend of liquidations. These names and all crypto really had a brutal weekend of liquidations, and they haven't really recovered. I do believe that they will recover. I don't think there's any need for panic. And historically speaking, we are where we have been at around this time in the cycle. So it doesn't seem like that has broken. Now, with regards to Palantir stock, this is their chart right here. You can see how much it is up. It has gone from close to 24, or actually sub 20s a year ago, to 101 right now. So a lot of growth. Now, what does Palantir do? Well, they essentially create software, and their customers are typically the U.S. government. Sometimes they do foreign work as well. But that software aggregates data from different sources, and it uses this data to make predictions. Now, the implementation of this software, the use of this software, are not just for government applications, but they can be used in things like healthcare and finance, and wherever data having predictive attributes is applicable, which is basically everywhere. Now, we do hold an uncomfortable rating for Palantir, and that's based on its associations with Israel. And we believe that these associations are material and they are current. So just keep that in mind. So this is not even a candidate for that we're considering for investing. However, some things stood out to me when I looked at their financials and the valuation that they are getting right now. So Palantir reported revenue on reported their earnings on the 3rd of February. Palantir reports Q4 2024 revenue growth of 36% year over year, which, by the way, when you're talking about software, 36% year over year isn't really amazing. I mean, top line growth. I mean, I can name probably a dozen software companies that have this type of growth. US revenue growth of 52% year over year. Issues fiscal year 2025 guidance with revenue growth of 31% year over year. So they're expecting 31% year over year growth, which is okay. I mean, that's just another software company, basically. That's nothing really to write home about. 31% growth. Inshallah, PIF will beat that. Eviscerating consensus. By the way, when you have companies using the word eviscerating consensus estimates, I mean, what are we talking about? This is kind of giving marketing material vibes. So, I mean, I don't know. Salesy. The tone that they're striking here is salesy. I like when earnings reports are matter of fact. Just speaking of data, just give me the data, tell me what happened. I'll make the decision about what it eviscerated or didn't eviscerate. I don't need you to tell me what you've eviscerated. So Palantir, right off the bat, something seems very fishy about this company. And there's something fishy about the CEO. I'm not talking smell wise. I'm just talking, the way he conducts himself, something very fishy about this guy. I'm not really comfortable at all when he speaks. He doesn't seem like someone I would do business with. In terms of the numbers that were reported, so for the year ended December 31st, 2024, they made $2.8 billion top line here. Revenue. They made $2.8 billion. This is a respectable number, but you have to take it in relation to, what is the market valuing this company? Sales and marketing at close to $1 billion. That's not great when sales and marketing is a third of revenue. That's not really great. That doesn't really imply that the growth is organic, that the product is selling itself. And research and development is 500 million. I'm not mad at that. General and administrative at 500 million seems a lot for a software company that is earning 2.8 billion. General and administrative seems like a lot. So we'll talk about that. Total operating expenses close to 2 billion. Income from operations 300 million. So income from operations is 300 million. Interest income is 200 million. So they must have a lot of cash. Net income is 467 million. So interest income is basically 50% of net income. That is a terrible ratio to have. That is not really a company that is that is doing amazingly good in terms of producing value for people. When interest income is half of your net income, something's up. I mean, maybe if you're just starting out, you can have a wacky ratio like that. But as a mature company, you really should never have a ratio like that, unless you're a bank, where interest income is half of net income. So that's kind of a flavor of what we're talking about here. If we look at current assets, so they have cash and cash equivalents of 2 billion, marketable securities of 3 billion. So they have a good amount of liquidity. Let's see, their debt. They have very little debt, which is good. And if you look at their cash flows, this is going to tell you a lot about sort of the culture in the company. So net income is 467 million, but this is not really telling you the entire picture. In terms of cash flow, they're producing a lot more money. The reason why net income is so low is because their stock-based compensation is close to 700 million. So, the executives in this company are really enriching themselves uh, to a large degree at the expense of shareholders by paying themselves $700 million in stock-based compensation. This is a crazy amount to pay yourself, considering that revenue was 2.8 billion. And so the net cash that was provided by operating activities was 1.1 billion. So a bit better than the less than half a billion that we saw in terms of net income. But now let's look at the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is that the market is valuing this company at $236 billion. This is a company that had less than half a billion in net income. Yes, in terms of cash flow, it was a billion one. But I mean, management is paying itself pretty generously, and that doesn't seem like a practice that it's going to cease anytime soon. Again, here revenue of 2.87 billion. So, I mean, basically, what are we talking about? 100 times top line. The market is valuing this company. That seems like a bubble to me. I mean, and margins are what you expect from a software company. Gross margins are 80%. Yes. If you look at the net margins, they aren't that great. There are software companies that have 30-40% margins net. The net margin here is 16.1. So we're not talking about great margins. Their free cash flow is 39.8%. Again, better, but their stock-based compensation is taking the majority of that away. Price to earnings ratio 440. I'd like Peter Lynch to have a comment about that. Even though I don't like looking at price to earnings, I look because this is trailing 12 months. I like to look at forward price earnings, but still, it kind of gives you an idea of where we are. And I mean, the amount of growth that this company has experienced in no way justifies this type of growth. Yeah, I know they eviscerated consensus estimates, but what are we talking about? We're talking about revenue growth of 36% year over year for a software company. And because it's a software company, I feel like when I say software so many times, I feel like Allen Iverson talking about practice. But Yeah, it's a software company. What are we talking about? But because it's a software company, I don't really see it having a really robust moat like something like a Tesla has, where yeah, it's software, but it's paired with robots. It's paired with self-driving, and it's paired with vehicles, and therefore the moat has an added dimension. With regards to software, even if it looks really complex, the Chinese can can replicate this, and with two packs of ramen noodles and $1 million, they could do. They could, it's possible they could spin something very similar in a few weeks. So uh, especially after the DeepSeek revelation, people should be very wary of companies that are simply reliant on a software, because if something like a large language model can be replicated and in fact improved upon and just released as open source like it was nothing, and done as a side project for a hedge fund, then no software company is really safe. No pure software company is really safe. And so for Palantir, I don't think it's it's any different. um, Now, price target for this, by the way, is $81. We're already above 100. And to look at something like PEG ratio, it's 8.3. I mean, Peter Lynch liked a PEG ratio of 1. Anything above that was too high, he thought. Now, I don't necessarily agree with it. Depends on the moat that the company has around its product. If you look at something like Tesla, here I'm looking at Tesla, by the way, has a market cap of 1.2 trillion, but the revenue is 100 billion. We're talking about $100 billion uh, revenue business trading at 12 times that. We're not talking about 2.8 billion uh, trading at 236 billion, 100 times. So why the market feels inclined to give Palantir this type of multiple escapes me. If you look at the PEG ratio uh, for Tesla, 7.7. Again, I don't really like looking at PEG. So, I mean, Palantir is valued more expensively than Tesla at current price. So that doesn't make any sense to me. And you look at, Tesla return on equity, 22%, return on assets, 11%. Look at Palantir, return on assets, negative 7.5, return on equity, negative 19.9%. So just a word of caution for people who, get swept up in the moment. It's very easy to become a prisoner of the moment. To sort of take a step back and look at the numbers, see if they make sense, be a data driven, halal conscious investor, not an emotion driven halal conscious investor, not a FOMO driven halal conscious investor. All right. So, with that being said, let's look at a couple of news items and then we'll let you guys go. So, uh, this is a great idea, I think. Elon Musk proposes putting the US Treasury on blockchain for full spending transparency. I have a feeling this will never happen. But this could be one of the uses of crypto that makes a lot of sense. So, government action, I do believe, should lean towards transparency whenever possible. Blockchain as a public ledger, technology for a public ledger, seems very appropriate to use for this use case. I would love to see crypto actually having, a use case beyond the original store of value use case of Bitcoin, and beyond other utilities like, oh, here's how to make more money from crypto. Google has officially eliminated its minority hiring goals and will review its DEI programs. And I honestly think this is great news. I really didn't believe in DEI at all. I think I think, you know, it is especially as Muslims, the Prophet, peace be upon him, taught us to always hire based on merit. And having DEI is basically sort of, I think, tacit implication that without DEI, certain people can't compete, and I just don't think that's true. The FDIC is planning to revise crypto guidelines for banks, allowing them to conduct activities without regulatory permission. So, some banks have met with government officials to push for offering custody of crypto assets along with tokenized deposits that could put some checking accounts on blockchains. So, again, everything is pointing towards a better regulatory environment that is encouraging of cryptocurrencies. And so this gives me, I think, additional uh, confidence that crypto generally should appreciate in price, led by Bitcoin, and the market cap of crypto should grow under this new administration. And now, something that brings me back to earth and perhaps rolls back that sentiment is comments from Eric Trump about crypto. So in this tweet, he's saying it's a great time to add Ethereum. Ethereum, by the way, is another source of depression when thinking about crypto. Just something. Speaking of a bubble, there's a bubble for you, Ethereum. But yeah, so with that, let's take some questions very quickly because I know it's kind of late. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam to all. I don't think there's any reason to be nervous about Bitcoin or Bitcoin miners. I think, inshallah, they'll do well. I think healthcare, especially in some of these smaller cap healthcare stocks that are doing things that are innovative with the rollback of regulation and increase mergers and acquisition activity that should come from that. I think a lot of them will do very well. With regards to PLL, I think it's undervalued, and I think it's sort of a game of patience at this point. I would dollar cost average into Tesla. Like I said, if you'd like to be a millionaire, perhaps this is not financial advice. This is how I think about it. If I would like to add $1 million to my future net worth, I will try to add another 300 shares. That's what I would do. Perhaps we'll go into a more sort of detailed breakdown of robotaxi revenue and profit. Thanks, Khaled. Really appreciate you showing up. Yeah, Palantir, I mean, the vibes are off, as the young folks say. Wayakum Ahsan, my pleasure. Dr. Khalid says, eviscerating is equivalent to jobs in medical field where they say lucrative. Yeah, touche. Yeah. Yeah, just, I mean, the Chinese are resourceful and proven to be very intelligent. So some noodles, a bit of cash, and they'll do anything. How do you interpret gold prices going up? By the way, I mean no disrespect to anyone who may be Chinese. I have a lot of respect for Chinese people, so just putting that out there. Amir says, "How do you interpret gold prices going up?" Well, I do think it's sort of an everything bubble that we're living in right now, and I think it makes sense that asset prices go up as confidence, long-term confidence in fiat wanes. The Platform I was using is called FinChat. This is so FinChat, FINCHAT.io. The Halal report is from our site. That's app.practicalislamicfinance.com. Link for that is in the description. Also, link to become a member is in the description. So do become a member if you aren't already. Walaikum salam, Muhammad. I do think that the strategic Bitcoin reserve will pass, and I don't think it not passing will mean that the crypto cycle is over. It will just be one catalyst that didn't materialize. Inshallah, Abdullah, we will have another one soon. I think the economy is doing well. I wouldn't put too much weight on jobs reports. If you remember, if you recall last year, the jobs report number was revised a lot afterwards, and turned out that it was completely different from what was reported at the time. So wouldn't put too much weight on it. Most important numbers, I believe, are the inflation and looking at the earnings for companies, and the earnings have been quite solid. So that, I think, those give you the best indications about the state of the economy at any one point, and the state of where risk assets should be in the future. All right, guys. Thank you all. If you enjoyed this live, do leave a like. I really appreciate you guys tuning in at this late time. Until next time, make sure to take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum, and peace be upon you all.